Facts. It's crazy because it's like we actually starting to get people in Web3. I never thought we'd see the day. I thought we just, be talking about FTX for the next 3 years, and
Oh
that's how we make our money. But
Right. But we got the Steph Curry episode here on episode 30 of the Block to Block podcast, the best podcast in the world for all things Web3. Here we break down the technology, what's going on in the market, and the ways in which you can benefit. I am NFT and Jai,
and I am Web3 Wayne.
and over here the talk is different.
Always different. So different. We gotta remind y'all, if you lose your cheese, cheddar, mozzarella, provolone, that's on you. Because this podcast is for informational purposes only. By
Mhm.
no means will be liable if you lose your money. So please consult a professional financial advisor and enjoy the podcast. Let's get into it.
Man, I'm super excited. We got amazing guests on today. Another person actually that we've known for a few years now and we're able to build like a genuine friendship with, right? So, you know, not to keep you guys waiting too much, but I'm gonna just read out the bio and introduce our esteemed guest, Miss Alyssa Gill, who is a social media manager at Web3 at a Web3 marketing agency called Serotonin. Prior to working in Web3 full time, she spent 3 years in the venture capital space. Alyssa is an alumna of Venture for America and the Penn State University. She is based in her hometown, Silver Spring, Maryland. Shout out to the DMV. And
no.
she's currently pursuing her MBA at Howard University. And that's just a snippet of just how awesome Alyssa is. She really decided to be modest in her bio, but let's just turn it over. Alyssa, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Super excited to have you on just because I know one, for those who may have not known, Derek and I, we participated in this entrepreneurship fellowship after college called Venture for America. And that's actually where we met Alyssa because she was one of the staff persons who really curated an amazing training camp experience for us young, naive fellows who wanted to get into the world of startups and technology and whatnot. So very excited to have you on today because you have a very amazing journey that I just really want us to have highlighted here. So if you don't mind, just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got to your current point in your journey.
Sure. So, gosh, I guess I've kind of always been in the startup entrepreneurial space.
Mhm.
So, maybe in a way, was always kind of ripe to end up in Web3. I've always been kind of a futurist, a technologist, just really interested in what's coming up. And I think that curiosity is what kind of led me to venture capital. Was working in the VC space for about 3 years, and at the time, I thought VC was really on the cutting edge because we were investing in the technologies that would shape our worlds maybe a decade from now. But with crypto, it's like, and in Web3, you're exposed to technology that's changing our lives kind of instantly, or changing in the space of blockchain technology instantly. So everything just moves a lot faster. But as far as how I got here in my journey, I guess during COVID, or peak COVID, I should say, in I guess it was 2021, got really curious about investing in crypto, investing in general, and then alternative asset classes, including cryptocurrencies. So got kind of down the rabbit hole of Bitcoin white paper, the Ethereum white paper, and then just kind of tumbled further from there, learning all about Web3 and decentralized tech. And then kind of escaped the rabbit hole somehow, but ended up at Art Basel in Miami. I guess this was fall 2021. So during Art Basel, there were so many NFT events. There was even an NFT dedicated conference called NFT Basel that I went to. And I decided to practice like minting my first NFT. I ended up meeting the co-founder of the project serendipitously, and just got really excited about NFTs in particular. And I think it's a really great, NFTs are really a great entry point for a lot of people into Web3. So anyways, that was my my access point, and yeah, had to participate in this world full time. So
Yeah, really dope, really dope. But right before we dive more into like the Web3 side of things, and just learning more about your background, you have a very amazing one, right? Because
Thank you.
even prior to, working in VC for 3 years, as you mentioned, you also went through that entrepreneurial phase, right? Working at a startup,
Yeah.
founding your own company, then transitioning to VC, and then transitioning into Web3, right? No small feats at all, right? Because these are all career pathways that are, for lack of a better term, pretty risky, right? It's like high stakes, fast moving in all aspects. So, what I really want you to get across to the audience is like, as in Venture America, we always say there's no reward without risk, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you feel
I
comfortable,
can't believe you pulled that one out, but all right.
Dusted it off. That's good.
right, right. Honestly, I was freestyling. I was like, oh, what was that phrase again? Like, stay risky or something.
Business.
But yeah, what makes you comfortable in like just tolerating this risk and jumping forward and jumping into the unknown? Because that's essentially what you did in this current phase with Web3.
Yeah. Yeah, I ask myself why I'm so comfortable with risk all the time. Um, but I don't know. I think it's just what I just have to go for what I'm genuinely curious in. And
Nice.
um I don't know, I've just never really been one to need stability in the traditional sense. Um so I think I would rather like risk it all doing something I really, really like life is short and you just never know. So just want to be doing whatever I'm actually passionate about or curious about.
Yeah,
No kind of no matter what the risk. And I'll always end up where I'm supposed to be. So I think just like that positive, optimistic, curious mindset is ultimately what makes me comfortable with a lot of risk.
I love it. I love it because there is something to be said about that, right? Like as you mentioned, we only have one life to live, and if it's really a disservice to ourselves if we choose not to chase what makes us curious or what really drives us. So I think that's really cool. It's just one thing I thought about as I was like reviewing your background, like, man, like Alyssa really did it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more to be done, more to be done, but have experimented a lot and taken a few chances, and yeah, we'll see what's next.
Absolutely. All right, so let's fast forward back to where we are right now in terms of like your Web3 journey.
Sure.
So as you mentioned, you have this interest in really more so alternative asset classes. You had this spark
Yeah.
about investing. You found NFTs to be like a cool entry point. Just curious if you can unpack that up for us a little bit more.
Sure. Like the interest in investing in NFTs or
Yeah, yeah, and just really how you got into it because I remember speaking offline. You mentioned like just your passions and
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So I think NFTs just like created this tangibility for me as far as the Web3 space. Like I really love art. And I was like, okay, so if I collect an NFT, it's provable on the blockchain that I own this unique piece of art. Like it just made it all, it brought it from very abstract to pretty real life. And even though it's digital art, at least the art that I am invested in, not that real world art can't be tokenized because it certainly can. But it just became real world applicable as far as like Web3 technology, blockchain technology. Um, so yeah, I think just naturally loved art prior to Web3, and so it was a pretty seamless transition for me to say, okay, I love like real world art. Digital art is just the digital version of that. Already, have quite a bit going on digitally for myself. So yeah, was pretty intuitive to um to start collecting NFTs, but was certainly nerve wracking too. Like a wallet and minting and all that stuff was foreign, but got the hang.
Hmm. So I got a question. I got a question because I know for some people that may be listening, right, they may feel like NFTs is really like this kind of cult type thing over here to the side. There are people that's like
Yeah.
into NFTs and like that's their thing. How did you navigate right when you first started kind of get into it? These different like ecosystems and these different personalities and this different world, if you will. And how were you kind of able to begin that journey? With like the NFT Basel and and really
Yeah.
just getting into it. I think that would be great to hear that perspective.
Sure. So I think the first time I heard of NFTs was probably NBA Top Shot. So
Okay.
that's uh kind of a NFT collection that I know Dapper Labs is involved in. I believe they're on the Flow blockchain. But yeah, it was like, okay, people are collecting these like real life videos of real life moments that happened in basketball games. Interesting. And then I learned more about PFP projects and was like, whoa, this seems like, it was like very pump and dump. It was very like, cartoon animals, all of that stuff. Um, and then, yeah, over time, I learned about other platforms like beyond open. So OpenSea, of course, has most of the PFP projects. But then I learned about like Super Rare and Foundation and saw, wow, there's like one of ones out here. There are editions out here. So just had to slowly learn about the different types of like digital art that are being digital art pieces that are being like offered as NFTs or that are collectible as NFTs. But yeah, as far as getting started, really like you mentioned just now, Derek, NFT Basel. I just remember like they greeted us. They were like, GM, this is what GM means. Like it was very, kind of NFT 101, and just learned a lot there. And I think was innately curious to just keep learning. So like created a Twitter account literally because I was going into NFT Basel. Like I needed my own account dedicated to crypto Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So I think, when I say fell down the rabbit hole further, it's like, okay, who should I follow? Okay, I'll follow the people I heard from at NFT Basel. What are they talking about? Kept learning further and further. What podcasts are they on? Like, what have they written on Medium or on Mirror? So, and for those who don't know, Mirror is a like Web3 kind of publishing platform for writers. So, anyways, hopefully that's helpful as far as like that very, very early intro into NFTs.
Definitely, definitely. And just really curious about the educational journey, right? Because now you specialize in like marketing and copywriting and just conveying this information to the mass audience, right? So,
Yeah.
you talked about like, okay, you're in these experiences where it's like kind of like NFT or blockchain 101, you making your own Twitter accounts, you're falling down the rabbit hole. For the average viewer, right? Because right now, when it comes to Web3, we kind of get too hyped up on the technology and trying to like understand all the technological aspects. And one thing we always say on this show is if I asked you, hey, how does the internet work? You're not going to tell me what
Mhm.
like this network and Wi-Fi and da da da. Da. No, you're going
Yeah.
to just go on your phone, go to Google, right? So in your educational journey, like how did you navigate that and ensuring that you focused on the applicability of the technology, but not getting too lost in the technical jargon and what have you?
Yeah. I think with that, I kind of moved away from reading white papers and moved more towards like just learning more about utility. So like, okay, what does this NFT get me? Like, okay, access to a community, that makes sense. Like maybe access to certain events. Okay, that makes sense. Tickets get me access to events. Like just relate, like applying it in my head to like Web2 experiences.
Mhm.
Um, I think helped me. And yeah, I think like, for example, reading the Bitcoin white paper, it's like I don't necessarily know exactly how the dollar is printed and like how exactly it gets distributed, but I know what it gets me.
Mm.
So I think of it as again, that utility being the way I like got away from conceptual and more to reality.
Mm.
And I like that. I like that. We're gonna have to clip up that moment right there.
Viral. It's our viral moment.
Oh
uh,
my
Mm. No, for sure. Yeah. So I think too, like that's a great point of getting away from, the really technical to saying, hey, how can this be related to, things that I understand right now, and how can I really look for quality with the NFT or Web3 project? And I think you really called it out, where it's like that utility is what you're looking for, right? Like, how
yeah.
can this be applied for my actual life?
mhm.
Um, and I think what we've seen is that up until this point, Web3 has been this thing that's seen as like you need to be a technologist, you need to be in a technology. Much of what the internet was for a very long time.
Yeah.
But I know that you're in, marketing in Web3, right? So we definitely want to, take some time to get just a deeper understanding of how marketing is thinking about Web3, right? Or as a marketer, how are you thinking about Web3 and packaging up, companies or packaging up different um, parts and pieces of this Web3 world and delivering that to the masses. So, kind of to start off, what are the trends that you're kind of looking at and latest developments, and how do you kind of are seeing those things develop for Web3 companies?
Yeah. So I think I can go high level and then get more specific.
Mhm.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is to like market to the mass, like to market anything related to Web3 to the masses. I really feel like you have to solve people's like Web2 problems. So like how does Web3, because I think it becomes hypothetical, or it becomes yeah, hypothetical when you're telling somebody, oh, it would be better if you owned it, or it would be better if it's on the blockchain. But like if that doesn't solve a problem they're experiencing in Web2, um, then and also if it doesn't if the like user experience is much more challenging than Web 2, then like it's harder for people to onboard to have this better so-called better experience, and it becomes like not worth it. So I think you have to onboard people in a way that's familiar, like logging in with an email address or maybe paying with a credit card or other things that lower the barrier to participating in the Web3 space. Um, and then when marketing to them, I think like there's a lot of Web3 jargon that has become kind of corrupted. So like, uh, you know, I think even the term crypto itself, people are like, oh, that's a scam. Like there's this like immediate negative
Yeah.
reaction. And so I think, and also there's confusion, right? So like NFT, okay,
Yeah.
what does that stand for? I didn't even know that a dollar was a fungible token. Why would I care that this other thing is a non-fungible token? Like, I
Right.
think you have to get away from that Web3 tech-heavy jargon, and speak to people in terms that they understand, and bring them into experiences that they can understand how to use and that are intuitive from their Web2 lives. Um,
Mm.
I don't even know if I started macro and then got more specific. I just kind of talked, but
No.
This is great.
oh, you asked for trends I was watching.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think in Web3 it feels like people are actually marketing to builders right now more than the masses, because like we need people to build the infrastructure for the masses to even use. So
Right.
like, people are marketing to people who can develop on Solidity or like speak these, kind of languages that are blockchain native or Web3 native. So that's interesting. I don't know if it's a trend, but it's just like an observation that I'm keeping an eye on. And then been thinking a bit about like Web3 social media. Obviously, Elon Musk recently bought Twitter, and we are all kind of at the mercy of how he kind of leads that company, and how people who work for him can or will maintain the platform from here. Um, so yeah, I think it's interesting to imagine a world where we truly do own our data, we truly do own our audiences, we own our identities and reputations. So I wrote about that for work as well, but keeping an eye on Web3 social media as far as like marketing in this space goes. And then I think I'm keeping an eye on like the rebranding of Web3 terms, like I was just speaking to earlier.
Mm.
Um, are we going to keep using the term wallet, or will it become something else? Will we use the word like, or the term digital collectible instead of NFT? Like, how will we speak to a Web2 audience to include them and to make them feel like we're speaking their language? So yeah, I'd say those three things come to the top of mind.
Exactly. And that the last point you brought up is something that Derek or Wayne and I can definitely relate to. So
My bad. Okay, Web3 Wayne.
no, no,
Get it
Hi.
right. Get it right.
yeah, yeah, on the crazy eyes, like, but you know, for those who may have been watching, as we talk about Timbucktoo, which is our platform, before we used to call it a physical NFT marketplace.
Okay, cool.
While initially that'll gain some interest, it will also gain just like a lot of confusion. We're spending more time explaining the technology versus the solution of it's a collectibles marketplace, which just happens to have these technological applications on their back end that solves for this specific solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, just finding a way, like an NFT, you can just call it like a digital pass or digital certificate, for example, or just very one-on-one type terms that are just non-threatening.
Yeah.
Seems very accessible to the average person. So yeah, really good insight.
Thanks. Yeah. So yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm super interested in how NFTs in particular hopefully do help, like I was saying at the kind of earlier in the conversation, like bring people in and feel like this space is within reach and not as foreign as it can seem. So we'll see.
Great.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure to link the article as well. Your write up that you did. So y'all check the comments. Check the description. My bad. Check the description and go check out that article. And while you're at it, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share to your loved ones. They got to get this game. Alyssa is out here dropping gems. People got to hear this, even though she don't want them to.
Just bashful, you know.
Right. As the best marketer within Web3, she's just trying to save
all. Oh my God. Not even close. Not even close.
Claim it. Claim it.
Great. Yeah. So just going along the same theme of like the different tactics that we should employ to ensure that people feel as though this technology is more accessible. Like, I know you're very heavy on Twitter, you write copy. Just curious, in terms of like different forms of marketing mediums, like do those strategies or tactics change a bit? Like how you may present something visually versus how you write about it? Just curious from your experience.
Yeah. So it's funny because I feel like when you're in like a Web3 social media role, like by far the most used platform is Twitter, right? Crypto Twitter. Like Web2 is building Web3 right now. This community kind of convenes in a lot of ways on Twitter and Discord. And these aren't actually Web3 native platforms. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think of course there's inherently there's going to be inherently different ways that you like present on these platforms. So like Twitter, I think it depends, like a tweet versus a thread, like tweet should be short, snappy, easy to digest, quick. You're just kind of scrolling through. And then a thread can become this like super substantive, actually long form piece, like kind of a blog, just kind of broken down. So it's really interesting, that contrast on the platform, just one social platform, of course. And then of course, Twitter Spaces, right? Like audio only format. People are hosting entire radio shows out of Twitter now, kind of taking the place of Clubhouse in a lot of cases. So yeah, 3 very different ways to show up just on Twitter. But then like versus visually speaking, I honestly don't know that like any of the visual social media platforms really stand out to me as being like heavy Web3. Like there are some artists who moved into Web3 because as a way to monetize their work, who are on Instagram, but they were on Instagram before. And Instagram just sunsetted their NFTs, right? Meta as a whole just sunsetted NFTs. So like, okay, maybe that's not the Web3 visual home for social media. And then TikTok, there's really not a lot of Web3 content yet. So, that's visual, of course, video based. So it might be YouTube. That's the heaviest visual social platform for the Web3 space. But yeah, even that, I just don't necessarily see it going. I think there's a lot of YouTube content that's informing people and educating people about Web3, like 101. But I don't know that like that deep like conversation between experts is happening on YouTube all the time. We're on YouTube Live now, so we might be among very few. but yeah, So hopefully that makes sense. But I just really think Twitter is a standout by far, and it'll be interesting to see like where Web3 congregates in a more visual way. Because I don't think YouTube is the right fit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see that, like, it's not like you see on Twitter, it's almost like a community building together.
Yeah.
Versus YouTube, it's like separate parts of just throwing things at the wall and hoping people kind of find it.
Right.
It's
Like,
more like a passive experience, right? With YouTube, where you're just watching somebody and you don't really participate like you do in Twitter or other mediums.
Right. And I think that might be the really similar, like that point might apply to Instagram and TikTok as well. Like it's very one to, like I'm speaking to you, my audience member, not like us speaking to each other on Twitter, you know, replying, like DMing, you know. I just think maybe that's why Twitter works best for the Web3 space. That is, of course, so community driven. So anyways, have steered away from the question, but yeah.
Reddit? What about Reddit?
Oh yeah.
That's not visual.
Yeah. No. I think I would consider Reddit to be like very, very text based, you know?
Yeah.
And I do think they're like, I think Reddit might be a close second to Twitter as far as like written like truly community driven, true authentic conversations. Like I think it'd be a close second to Twitter.
Yes.
But it kind of happens in these like closed off spaces of subreddits, whereas Twitter feels like for some reason it happens more on the surface or like more publicly. I don't even know why. I think it just feels that way. Yeah.
Twitter got something going for itself, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it might just be because it all happens on twitter.com, whereas like in Reddit, on Reddit, it happens in subreddits. And like even that one little barrier, like it just makes it a little bit more private. And it's just a little bit harder to get to, but I do think it makes a difference. So
yeah, the crazies are a lot easier to assess on Twitter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was
out and be like
the Clubhouse, they had a massive decline in terms of usership, I would say. So
yeah.
Twitter's the reigning champ as of right now.
As of right now.
Yeah. Shout out to Clubhouse keeping us all warm during the panty.
Yeah.
That's another podcast for another day. Shout out to Clubhouse. Great. Okay, yeah. So you're in this very evolving space, very fast paced. You know, you're working to help digest all that's going on and make the content very easy to understand for the average person. Like, what's your routine? What's your process? Like, how are you staying up to date with everything that's going on and making copies so quickly?
Yeah. I think that the secret is like not keeping up with everything that's going on, but just keeping up with like what's relevant to me, what's relevant to people I'm like writing on behalf of, you know? So like if hypothetically I was we're just talking about NFTs, right? So if hypothetically I was writing on Twitter for like an NFT project, I would just keep up with, okay, what are the other relevant NFT projects up to? Like, what are people talking about in this kind of like subspace of the Web3 universe? Because trying to keep up with all of Web3 just isn't, maybe for someone out there, which more power to them, but for me, it's not sustainable or feasible. And it's also just drinking from a fire hose, right? Like, I'd rather be focused and get to know the topic at hand more deeply and not try to spread myself thin and understand like every single kind of trend or moment in the Web3 space. But as far as like my process just to keep up with the things I need to keep up with, I'd say whatever's trending on crypto Twitter. I also make Twitter lists. I'm a big proponent of Twitter lists. Like it's not even fancy. It's just like adding people who all talk about DeFi or whatever to a list so I can like focus my consumption a little bit. So that, and then there's a couple newsletters that I love too. So love to scan those newsletters. Like TLDR Crypto is a quick one with just like a couple of links and the main takeaway. Like, you know, it's a good way to just keep up generally without getting too deep into the weeds of all things Web3. So that's like a little bit of my process or like my approach to staying on top of things I need to stay on top of without like overwhelming myself. Yeah.
Dope. Very take notes, everybody who's listening. Like, it's all about really just finding your niche within Web3, right? Because to your point, if you try to cover every single thing, it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? Only the team at Block to Block can do that. But for the average person,
I'm sure you can. And there's two of you. So,
Listen,
minds.
I don't know why Mamadou trying to put us in front of that fire hose, but we need him to stop. Or NFT and Jai. I'm sorry, NFT and Jai.
Right? Don't tell my government. But
it was karma for calling him Web3 Wayne earlier, or calling him Derek earlier.
You got it right the first time.
Oh my God.
I don't need to know all that, but yeah, it's about like finding that niche, right, and doubling down. Like, perhaps you won't be an expert in everything, but wherever your passions are aligned with, like, so for you, I know you're a huge purveyor of art, like you love art, like that's your thing. So like NFTs and like all of these digital art collections, that makes sense to like focus in on, learn about these projects, and then just see on a deeper level, like, oh, okay, what makes these projects very successful? Oh, they build community, they have utility. Okay, let me learn more about that. And you become an expert in that niche. So just for you who's watching, remember, it's all about like just finding alignment with your passions. If you can find what is it that you currently do or you want to get into, and what's the Web3 equivalent of that, like go full force from there. And as you navigate, you may become, heck, not even an expert, just like someone who's an enthusiast about that specific area of this new wave of technology. So yeah, great advice about just how you curate content and just keep up with it.
Thanks. Yeah. No, I think how you put that was great too. Like find your whatever your interest is in Web2 applies to Web3. Whatever you do for work or whatever in Web2 is needed in Web3. Like, and you don't have to know everything about how the internet works to have a job that works remote, and everything you do is on the internet, is on Zoom and Asana and Slack. Like you don't have to know everything about how money works to make money on the internet or off the internet. Right. So like I think I would just encourage people to resist the temptation to learn everything just because this is new. Like learn how you can play in this space, learn how you can work and find community and like find your interests in Web3. Yeah, without having to go like all the way broad. So
Fire. Okay. So, and one thing that you're doing right now, you're kind of doing the same thing in terms of having a marketing type role, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Looking at your professional background, you did a lot of things like in biz dev, community management, marketing. I'm just curious, like for the marketer who's out there, is there any skill set that's like very unique to Web3? Like for the marketer who's looking to make that transition into exploring this space, or just curious from your perspective?
Yeah, I love that. That's a really interesting question that I'm definitely going to like keep reflecting on after this conversation. So there's this term, this Web3 term, shilling, right? So like people don't like to be sold or like sold a bill of goods in Web3. And I think people are pretty sensitive to that. I think people want to like feel like they're part of a community and feel like they're being included in something, but not sold on it.
Right.
I think it can be a bit of a fine line, but I do think it's an important nuance to flag. And so, yeah, I think there's like skill sets I was fortunate enough to kind of build in my Web2 roles that are around community building and like interpersonability and all of that. That applies to any role in marketing to Web3. It's like so important to be talking to people like they're people and not like they're dollar signs that are just waiting to like convert, so yeah, it's a bit of a cop out, but I just think being a genuine like people person, or being able to genuinely connect with people and show up authentically, is like that skill set that I'm sure many marketers in the Web2 space already have, but I think it's even more critical in Web3.
Yeah, that makes sense because you gotta really know how that current community and audience plays, right? Like what's the rules, like what's the cultural norms, and to your point,
Right.
hey, it's not no, because that's even something we've experienced in terms of just talking to different people. They're like, hey, we're anti-capitalism. It's all about community power and power to the people, and
Yeah.
that's a huge sentiment within like this early stage of Web3 users, at least. So we'll see how that may evolve as we get much more mass adoption. But yeah, great insight.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess we agreed. We will see how it evolves. Super curious to see how a bunch of industries evolve in the Web3 space and how they look different. So yeah, remains to be seen over the next like decade, 2, 3. Um, yeah, but that's a really interesting question.
Any
Yeah.
industries you're keeping an eye on that you're either from like a research standpoint or just curiosity standpoint?
Huh. Like I am interested to see how music pans out in this Web3 space.
Mm.
I'm not too privy to like music NFTs, for example, but curious to see how like music people help musicians, support them, and how musicians like continue to monetize their work. Because I think the music industry's monetization model is like under fire, rightfully so. Why can't people even own their masters without paying an exorbitant amount for it? So curious to see how the music industry plays out. Um, yeah, real estate is another one. Like, will house deeds be NFTs going forward? Um, and then I think financial services, like we just watched Silicon Valley Bank kind of tumble. Um, what does that mean for a financial system that's built on decentralized technology? Like, to me, the use case is stronger, not financial advice. Do your own research, but like, you know, that's interesting too. TradFi into DeFi.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. Just
Don't do it. Whatever you're about to do.
I was gonna say, if you're curious, just see how this technology is being utilized within like the music industry, real estate, and financial services. We was gracious enough to have on episode 21 Jay Gardette, who's in real life, he's a commercial real estate developer. Been doing that for like 14 years, and he's just been crushing it in terms of real estate development within the metaverse, right? And he was talking a lot about that, and he dropped a lot of gems. So, yeah, all of these industries are really being challenged and adaptive in like really cool and genuine ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I did listen to that episode of the podcast. So that was awesome.
What?
Now you looking shocked.
Little old Lance? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so y'all know, before we started, Alyssa was like, I've never even seen this podcast. I don't even know what y'all got me into. And we was like, you haven't watched one? Like,
He was like, "What's it called? The Block to the Curb?" I was like, "No."
They're lying on me. They're lying on me. Wow, that's crazy. Just not even. I mean, I guess I have to defend myself. But yeah, enjoyed that episode a lot. That was a really good show.
Yeah, he dropped a lot of gems, just like you are. A lot of gems. Listen, if you guys want to know how to really market and be successful in terms of marketing, rewind, watch it many times. You dropped a lot of gems. Don't let it go over the head.
No, hopefully some of them land and resonate and are interesting and help someone who's like curious about working in this space full time. And I know there's so many folks in marketing and web too. Like those skills are really transferable. Need great copywriters, need great social media managers, need people thinking about branding. There's a lot of room for creativity in this space. So yeah, excited for people who are interested.
Yeah, and I think another thing too that translates is community builders. That's like
Yeah.
traditionally like more of a nonprofit like approach. But we're seeing that move over into a more commercial space. I think that's another great point that you made. Again, y'all don't miss the gems. You got to rewind, watch it a million times if you have to. A lot of gems this episode.
Definitely. So we know you have a hard stop pretty soon. So we just got a couple more questions, and then
Sure.
we gotta get you back on for part 2. So
That's
Alyssa was like, "Yo,
funny.
He said this is the first and last.
Anything is possible, you know?
All right, so in terms of, you mentioned there's a lot of room for creativity because the infrastructure still needs to be built, right? So we
Yeah.
still need people who are amazing at copywriting, still need people who are amazing at community building, and so much more. Is there anything in particular you're excited to see more of as we continue to evolve in terms of marketing?
Yeah. Hmm. I'm excited to see how, gosh, I mean, people just continue to monetize their creativity. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, express themselves, make full livings off of that. One thing that I'm actually watching per like monetizing creativity is like curation. And I know we've kind of driven the NFT thing home quite a bit here and don't want to beat a dead horse, but one thing I'm really fascinated by is how people curate all this digital art out there. Like, how do we catalog that? How do we organize it? How do we make it findable and searchable? Um, and more like NFT marketplaces are starting to reward art curators. So, if I bring a lot of it to market, right, help market an artist's work and drive a sale, could I get a percentage of that sale? A small fractional percentage. Of course, the bulk should definitely go to the artist, but if you help them get their work sold in the first place, like getting rewarded for that, making a living doing that potentially is something really intriguing that I'm curious to see how it pans out. So yeah, I know Foundation just launched Foundation Worlds for curation. Super Rare has Super Rare Spaces for curation. All of these allow you to basically create virtual galleries where you can feature artists' works, help drive sales, and get rewarded if you do execute a sale. So Nifty Gateway has a similar. Zora has referral links. Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm excited to see more art curation in Web3.
Yeah, I think you just brought up a great point too, because oftentimes we speak about the creator economy.
Yeah,
Oftentimes those conversations are framed from the lens of the actual creator themselves, right? Because as we know, for years, creators haven't been properly compensated for creating these extraordinary, like cultural icons, cultural assets.
yeah,
But you brought up a great point. Like, how about the people who are within this ecosystem, like the curators, like those who are helping with the facilitate sales, those who are helping to together like these catalogs and events. Like, we could get to a point in which many people are in this really dope ecosystem that allows everybody to make a living. Enjoy the art, enjoy whatever creation, and while making a living from it as well. So that was a great point.
thanks. Yeah, we'll see what happens in that realm. And I think you put it well too, like cultural assets. It's so important that we keep track of that and um, yeah, of our creativity.
Cool. So the last major question we have for you, the major gem we're asking for, the most riveting, profound piece
Wow.
of advice. No pressure.
Yeah, not at all.
What advice would you give to either the aspiring entrepreneur or the career professional who's looking to really get started in Web3, just based upon your own journey?
Yeah. Um, it would honestly be to maybe spend a bit of time keeping an eye on like crypto Twitter, keeping an eye on Discord communities that are interesting to you. And then participating and seeing where you can add value and seeing where there are gaps that your interests and skill set can contribute. There's definitely room for everybody. So I would just start by listening a bit and then jumping in to help.
Mm, I like that. Jumping in to help, adding value.
Yeah.
Love it. And
But
where
most
can
importantly, listen. Listen.
Yeah.
Like,
I wanted
to
to
this
mention
podcast.
that. This is a podcast. So yeah, we should. Yeah.
you have 2 ears but one mouth?
Right. I know that's right.
All right.
That's the
And
proverb.
that's more of like an old head proverb. Like, every uncle always says that, young blood, you got too many now.
Oh my gosh.
All right. And where can people stay connected with you and follow you?
Sure. So Twitter is the best place. At Decentralis would be my handle. So DECENTRALYSS. It's long, but that's where to find me.
And
Do you
it'll
guys
come in the description below.
Perfect. Yeah, I appreciate the conversation and the really insightful questions. They definitely have me looking inward, and yeah, also excited about what's to come in our space that we're in, folks. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We appreciate you for your time, for the gems, from just giving us, letting us know that we can be courageous enough to jump into something, even if it is new, right? Because what's the worst thing that can happen? You learn something new and you're really crushing it. So we appreciate you for hopping on the podcast, giving us a lot of practical advice in terms of how we think about marketing, interacting with communities. And yeah, thank you once again. This
Thank
is fire
you.
for episode 30.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Congrats on 30 episodes, y'all. Excited to keep track with you guys and what you're up to. And thanks for, yeah, educating the people on Web3. It's cool to see.
Most definitely. Perfectly
We do
said.
our best.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. All right. Thank you all for listening. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And if you're listening on an audio platform, get that 5-star review. It helps out greatly. I am NFT and Jai.
And I am Web3 Wayne.
Peace.